And we're back, and I'm so excited to talk to you about all the exciting stuff in episodes 1 and 2 of Loki. There's murder, there's mischief, there's 2 trickster gods. Without further ado, let's talk television. Alright, I'm a little behind, I'm not gonna lie, so I'm gonna lump 1 and 2 together, episodes 1 and 2. It's been a while since I've uploaded and I missed you guys so much. So let's not waste any time, let's get right into it. How are you feeling about Loki? I'm liking it so far, to be honest. I was a little worried about 2012 Loki's characterization in the beginning of the first episode. He was sort of immediately intimidated and scared of the TVA, and that's kind of not the vibe that I get from 2012 Loki. You know, this whole episode served as a way to watch Loki go from 2012 Loki, who wants to take over Midgard in the 9 realms, into someone who's like a little more vulnerable. And when we watched Loki in his original timeline, we got to see this over the progression of a few movies. But this is a show and they had to do it quickly, right? And I think they did a good job of that. I think they did a good job showing that Loki is deeply insecure, and that's where all this villainy comes from, right? Like, we know, the little emo boy. That's why we love him. And I don't know. I just thought he would have been like a little more insufferable. But in trying to show Loki in this vulnerability, it's to show that even a god is just a speck in the cosmos like us mere mortals. And we meet mustachioed Owen Wilson, who plays Mobius M. Mobius, an agent of the Time Variance Authority. That's a Mobius strip joke, you know, time and nerd jokes. Okay. And he sort of walks Loki through all the things that would have happened had he not hopped out of his timeline with the Tesseract, right? And Loki has to see the death of his mother. He believes, further proved in episode 2, that all of Asgard is gone. He probably thinks Thor is dead. You know, all of these things are sort of expediting this vulnerability in Loki. But of course, he's the trickster god. He is selfish. He is self-motivated, and we see a lot of that too. And I think that that's great because I think there has to be a balance for Loki to be the character that he is, right? While they were showing Loki's greatest hits, Owen Wilson, I can only think of him as Owen Wilson, but Mobius is grilling Loki, you know, do you like to hurt people? Do you like to kill people? Like, look at that smirk you have on your face. Like, trying, I guess, to reverse psychology him into admitting that he doesn't and that he's a good person and blah, blah, blah. Good God. Sorry, God. Didn't mean to say person. I think Loki would be very offended by that. But I wish they would have talked a little bit more about how the Tesseract, the Mindstone inside the Tesseract, affected Loki. Because, you know, Marvel came out in 2018 and said that Loki was definitely under the influence of the Mindstone when he was doing all those things, including murdering Phil Coulson, which is sort of what set the whole thing in motion, where the Avengers came and they're trying to get him, and the aliens, and you guys saw the movies, I don't need to tell you. So I don't know, I feel like they sold his character a little bit short. Like, if you're gonna bring that into the Marvel lore, like, let's talk about it. This would be the place to dissect it, right? I feel a little let down by that, but it's whatever. I want to get to the good stuff, like the Easter eggs and some of the other things, right? So let's talk about Peggy Carter the Variant, right? Of course, you watched the episode, presumably, if you're watching this, so you know that anybody who hops out of their timeline is considered a variant, right? And the TVA is tasked with bringing them in and charging them with crimes. Well, if you saw in the background, a little Peggy Carter walked by. What is that about? I would love to think that it's about sort of the spin-off that Marvel did, you can watch it on Disney Plus, called What If, where they made Peggy Carter Captain Britain, right? So she kind of took over Captain America instead of Steve, right? And I just think that would be so cool. I loved that we were able to see sort of, I don't know, the timelines colliding and stuff like that. You know, it wasn't just, I don't know, it made it feel very complete. All right, I know this is dumb, but in the first episode, when we are introduced to Mobius M. Mobius, their TVA agents have been murdered, right? They're looking for this very dangerous variant. It's the whole crux of the show, basically. So they go to 16th century France, and they see this little boy, and Mobius just pulls out this technology that belongs in the future, and this little 16th century boy is just fine with it, and yet he thinks the devil is the one who killed the TVA. Of course, we later learned that this variant, this super dangerous variant that has been murdering TVA agents, is a Loki. They believe it to be a Loki, and so the devil, of course, is her horns on her crown. We're going to talk about her in a minute. But what I really liked was that we got all the information pretty upfront. Within the first 2 episodes, we understand that they're looking for a Loki. Loki is stuck helping them, the Loki that we know, right? 2012 Loki. And he's doing it, of course, kind of for his own selfish motives. He wants an audience with the Timekeepers. Speaking of the Timekeepers, they're these mystical beings who are allegedly in charge of everything, and even Mobius kind of questions them, but they are the powers that be. And there's a tie-in. But buckle up, because of course we are in multiple timelines now, and even in the comics this happens. We first see the Timekeepers when they're trying to destroy the Avengers. Yikes. But here's the ultimate tie-in. It's delicious. The Timekeepers one time tried to kill Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, because they considered her to be the Nexus being. She has the ability to break apart these timelines, right? And so they went after her. And it's sweet because I just feel so vindicated for every time I've ever told somebody that Wanda is the strongest Avenger, and they looked me in the face and tried to argue with me. Anyway, I swear to high heaven, if the Timekeepers go and find Wanda, I'm gonna go into the sacred timeline or whatever it is, and I'm gonna kick some Timekeeper tushy. She's been through so much. Leave her alone. But I think that this also sort of leads into, of course, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And I think that because at the end of episode 2, of course, people are assuming this is Lady Loki, has sort of stolen all of these things from the TVA that reset timelines and break things apart. And she sort of really cleverly puts them together, kind of looks like a bomb, and then she explodes the timeline. She makes like several different timelines, and everybody is just straight melting down, understandably. Now, I want to talk about her because a lot of people on the internet were really disappointed with the way that she looked, right? She has cropped blonde hair. She doesn't look like Lady Loki, who looks just like a female version of Loki. She has long black hair, green eyes, sort of that, like, I don't know, edgy, weird leather look. But I don't think this is Lady Loki. I think this is Enchantress, and her name is Sylvie Lushton. And in the comics, she was gifted powers by Loki just because he kind of wanted to have fun. Basically, in the comics, Asgard had moved to Oklahoma after Asgard was destroyed, and Loki just wanted to bestow powers upon a mortal because he just wanted to watch her flounder and assume that she was an Asgardian. And she does assume that she's an Asgardian, and she goes by the name Enchantress for a while, and actually she tries to join the Young Avengers. This is, of course, the tie-in. We know we're getting a Young Avengers show. I would bet every dollar I've ever seen. Maybe don't take me up on that. But you know what I mean. We have this setup. We've got Kate and Speed and Wiccan and I'm tired. You know, it's happening. It's happening. We know it's happening. So this is, I guess, the Young Avengers' response to Loki. But I'm really interested to see how they flesh out her character. I don't want the internet, the internet, to like judge too quickly, right? I know we were really excited for Lady Loki. I think she still may come, hopefully, because this isn't quite what we wanted, right? We wanted to see Loki and Lady Loki. It definitely says something about gender fluidity, which is big for Loki in the comics. And Lady Loki is super cool. But I think just trust them. Just trust them. Come on. You know, we know how this goes. We've been in it for a decade now. And I liked to see the chaos from her, right? The selfishness that she is displaying is very Loki-like. When we're seeing Loki be less Loki-like than we're used to, I guess, I was having like such deja vu watching him try to request those records in this second episode to try and figure out what's going on. They're still searching for this variant in the second episode, and the lady is like, that's classified. And he asks for them again. That's classified. What can I have? She gives him his own file. That is being a journalist. And you know what? I thought to myself, Loki, be a good journalist and figure out a different way. And of course he did. You know, he puts it together, and it's just so kind of cute every time that Mobius praises Loki, and Loki's like, he needs it, you know? We all need it. But Loki particularly needs it. I think they're having a lot of fun with this show. And they're making the idea of multiple timelines relatively consumable, right? Like, this is a difficult thing to try and give to people who don't read comics, right? We're used to it. People who read comics, we're used to things being rebooted, different timelines, things that don't matter to the canon but are really like controversial and weird. Like, we're experts. But a lot of people who watch the Marvel movies and all the Marvel franchise shows and stuff, like, they may not be comic readers. And so I think that they're just trying their best to make sense of the mess that they made at the end of Endgame. I will never forgive them for what happened with Steve and Peggy. Anyway, to the end of the line, my tushy. And one other thing that just, I know, it just mildly irked me, okay? I know, like, they go to find the variant, right? They go to find who we now know to be Lady Loki, perhaps Enchantress, probably Enchantress, and Loki's fighting the people that she's, like, possessing, basically, and he's getting his butt handed to him. And I have a little bit of a problem with that, right? Because one, Loki's incredibly strong, he's a god. Two, he trained for years. I mean, he was in the Asgardian army, and he trained with Thor, and, like, Lady Sif, and, like, Fandral, and, like, all, like, what? I'm just, like, watching him get his butt kicked, and I'm like, what is happening? Is he that, like, rusty? Like, what's going on? I felt a little bit weird about that. But I guess perhaps that is to show a display of power on Enchantress's side. I don't know. We'll see. There are so many questions and so many things, but I think the main thing to note, to keep in your brains, is that the Timekeepers once went after Wanda. I think this is our tie into the Multiverse of Madness, and I once said that I wondered if Wanda would be the bad guy in the Multiverse of Madness. I wondered that if she were splitting timelines because she was looking for her lost children, as she does somewhat in the comics, and I don't know if that's true now. I wonder if it's just gonna be Doctor Strange trying to protect the Scarlet Witch or vice versa, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm very interested. I'm having a good time so far. Also, Miss Minutes. I can't not mention her. She's so cute. Alright, let me know what you're thinking. I want to talk with you guys about it. It's been so long since I've heard from you. Yeah, find me on social media. I'm on Twitter at hello_destiny. And here, of course, you can drop a comment down below. I miss you guys very much. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Destiny Johnson, and this has been Nerd News with Destiny. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, because I'm doing 2 episodes, it's like a little all over the place, but just like, be patient with me. I'm just like chatting with you guys, you know? You're my pals, and it'll be fine. Episode 3 will be better, I promise. I'm sorry. A little bit of a rough re-entry. So it's so hot here, and I'm sorry if you can hear my fan. It's 1,000,000 degrees, and I don't have central air conditioning because I don't know. Okay.